Another minute or two. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 14th, 2022 meeting of the Zoning Hearing Board for the City of Reading. We're going to introduce the members of our board first and other members that work with our board. And then we have a few other things to take care of before we start our first hearing. Jared?
Jared Bartz, member of the board.
Bill? I think Bill is still muted, but the person named Bill is Bill Harst. Jeff? You're still muted.
Sleet to rain. We have team coverage of the approaching storm. Jack Reinhardt will have the latest from
We
PennDOT.
okay?
First, we're going to go to Dan Skeldon in the Storm
Okay,
Center.
yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, guys, we do see some of everything.
Yeah.
I think some snow and sleet. It's probably more rain than
me
winter
ask
weather,
you
but
that.
there will be some
Oh.
winter weather at the
Yeah,
onset.
it's
The
coming from-
onset.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Jared, Bill. Jeff, did you introduce yourself through all that nonsense?
I tried. Do you hear me yet?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, Jeff Catone, member of the board.
Okay. Tom Fox?
Tom Fox, member of the board.
Okay. Charlie?
Charlie Jones, alternate member of the board.
Okay, I'm Phil Rabina, member of the board. Steve?
Steve Price, solicitor to the board.
Tom?
Tom
The other
Zeff,
Tom?
zoning administrator for the city of Reading.
Okay, thank you. All right, the first thing we need to do as the board is approve our 2023 zoning hearing board schedule. That schedule is done annually and things are checked to make sure that they do not conflict with any approved holidays or religious events. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the calendar for next year. That will be published on the city's website. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
I,
Okay, any opposed? All right, we'll consider that passed. All right. The next thing we have on our agenda is kind of an announcement that there was an appeal 2022-48, which was 820 Buttonwood Street. We received just kind of last minute a request to continue that appeal to February the 8th, 2023. So if you were online and we're going to comment on that, that will be heard on February the 28th. So I will make a motion,
February 8th.
pardon?
You said February 28th. the
Oh, I'm
second
sorry,
time.
February the 8th. I apologize for
That's
that.
good.
Anyway, I will make a motion to move that to February the 8th, 2023. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to render decisions for last month's meeting. The first is Appeal 2022-37. It was 1500 North 13th Street. Mr. Price,
Is there a motion to deny the relief requested?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor to deny, say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next is Appeal 2022-42.
Is there a motion to deny the relief requested?
I'll make the motion.
Is there
I'll
a second? There's a motion. and a
Second.
Is there any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor to deny, say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, that case was at 1262 Cotton Street. All right, the next is Appeal 2022-43.
Is there a motion to
50
approve?
North, okay,
Sorry.
excuse me.
Is there a motion to approve the relief requested?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor to approve, say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next is Appeal 2022-44.
213 North 8th Street. Is there a motion to approve the relief requested?
I'll make
Motion
the
to approve.
There's a motion and a second by Mr. Rabina. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next is Appeal 2022-45. It was 1238 Locust Street.
Is there a motion to approve the relief requested?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next appeal is 2022-46, 309 North 9th Street.
Is there a motion to? Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the relief requested?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next matter we have before us is an appeal from last month's meeting. The appeal is 2022-47. It is 625 McKnight Street. The Reading Parking Authority is requesting variances of sections in R3 dimensional regulations. Also to eliminate the requirement for landscape plantings within the proposed buffer strip along McKnight Street, to eliminate the requirement for screening within the proposed buffer strip along McKnight Street, and to eliminate the requirement for clear sight triangles, and to eliminate the requirement to plant shade trees within the parking lot. The overall goal of the application is to allow 82 parking spaces in a lot, and the subject property is in the R3 zoning district. Okay, would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Has notice of this appeal been given?
Yes, it has.
Okay, Mr. Price.
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant represented by counsel?
Mr. Boyer represents the parking authority.
Okay, do you want to enter your appearance? And then after you've done that, whomever you're going to have testify, we'll have them sworn in at the same time so we can keep things moving.
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Boyer?
yes, I would request to enter my appearance and then the three potential witnesses for the hearing would be Nathan Matz, Craig Bonenberger, and that would be it for this particular appeal.
Okay, Sandy, do you want to swear them in?
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Two people?
Okay,
I-
all
I-
right.
I spoke with Mr. Voyer earlier today or yesterday, I can't remember which. And he wanted to request to do an offer of proof. And then if the board had any questions of his witnesses, we could do that, or if members of the audience had questions.
I think that would be fine. We've done that before.
Thank you.
So go ahead.
Attorney Boyer, can I have your full name and firm and address, please?
Malin Boyer with Bingham and Hess, 2 Meridian Boulevard, Missing, PA 19610.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the board. The following is the offer of proof that I would make to the board. The parking authority is the current owner of 625 McKnight Street. The lot is presently vacant. It has unique characteristics. There is a retaining wall on 3 of its 4 sides. The lot is bounded by McKnight Street as its frontage and by alleys on its other 3 sides. It is not bounded by any other properties. The foundation of a building previously located at the property remains in place. As proposed, the lot would accommodate 82 parking spaces. There would be a single entry and exit point with 1 entry lane and 1 exit lane. A new sidewalk and curbing will be installed on McKnight Street as part of this proposed project, and the retaining walls from the prior owner will be repaired. The parking authority seeks a variance from ordinance 600-804A. It requests an allowance to increase the maximum impervious coverage to 100%. This coverage is meant to maximize the number of parking spaces at the proposed parking lot. This property was purchased as part of the citywide parking relief program that the parking authority presently has. This program is meant to create available parking to city residents throughout the city and is meant to alleviate the parking crisis in the city. And therefore, the 100% impervious coverage is requested to maximize the number of parking spaces at this proposed lot. Parking authority also seeks a variance from ordinance 600-1401C and requests the elimination or the requirement for landscaping and plantings within the proposed buffer strip along McKnight Street. The parking authority needs to install a stone trench in this area for stormwater management. Also, the area in question contains the foundation of the prior building, which would make the landscaping and plantings difficult. A landscape plan was submitted to Lester Kissinger, the city arborist, without the required landscaping and plantings in the buffer zone, and Mr. Kissinger has approved the plan as submitted. The parking authority also seeks a variance from ordinance 600-1402A. It requests the elimination for the requirement of screening within the proposed buffer strip along McKnight Street. This is meant to create an open view of the parking lot for safety and police patrols. This is meant to increase safety at the parking lot. The parking authority also seeks a variance from the requirements of ordinance 600-1503A. It requests that it be able to proceed without the required site triangle. The required clear site triangle would force the elimination of 5 of the proposed 82 parking spaces in the lot. It would also eliminate 4 on-street parking spaces presently existing on McKnight Street. It would also eliminate 2 deciduous shade trees that the parking authority intends to plant as part of the current design for the parking lot. The parking authority finally seeks a variance from ordinance 600-1602N. It requests the elimination for the requirement of planting of shade trees in the parking lot. If required, the parking authority would have to plant 9 shade trees. As a result, the parking authority would lose roughly 12 of the 82 proposed parking spaces pursuant to this requirement. Also, the parking authority intends to use security cameras at the parking lot. The shade trees would reduce visibility and decrease safety. The parking authority intends to use cameras for parking enforcement. The shade trees will limit the parking authority's ability to perform its parking enforcement. Further, the shade tree roots could potentially pose a threat to the 3 retaining walls at the property. Finally, the parking authority is planting 7 deciduous shade trees on the perimeter of the parking lot under its current design, which, as noted, the city arborist has approved. In summary, given its unique physical conditions, to maximize available parking to city residents and to ensure safety at the proposed parking lot, strict compliance with the requirements of the noted zoning ordinances is not possible. There is an unnecessary hardship due to the conditions of the property created by its historical use and not based on actions of the parking authority. The authorization of the requested variances is necessary to enable a reasonable use of the property. The variances, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or the district where the property is located. The variances, if granted, will not substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent properties, nor be detrimental to the public welfare. And if authorized, the requested variances are the minimum variances to afford relief and represent the least modification possible. And that is my offer of proof in regard to this property.
Okay, now, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do this for all the hearings. I'm going to see if board members have any questions, then I'm going to go to our solicitor and then to the zoning office, and then we will go to anybody in the public who has any questions. And Mr. Boyer, I would assume that if it's a question you can't answer, one of your witnesses will then answer for the public. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Jared, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay. Tom Fox, any questions?
No questions.
Let's see, Mr. Jones, Charlie Jones, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Jeff Gatone, questions?
I'm a bit ahead probably, but we always view the site triangle very important, since that might be eliminated. What plans do you have, options to mitigate the loss of such a thing? Would you present to us tonight, such as reduce speeding toward those entrance and exits, and or the inclusion of bump strips going across McKnight Street? I would appreciate hearing some plans that the parking authority might have in conjunction with the streets department.
Mr. Bonenberger, could you please respond to that?
I'll attempt to, yes. I assume, sir, you're referring to speed bumps on the public street. I don't think the city would want to take the liability for for speed bumps on the street. What we have done is on the land development plans that we submitted to the city, we have offered an alternative sight distance calculation or clear sight triangle that is based on PennDOT's requirements. That has more to do with actually pulling out onto the street than the clear sight triangle does. The clear sight triangle, the intent of that has always been to allow people that are traveling down the street to see vehicles that are approaching that driveway street intersection. And this clear sight triangle that the city requires is 75 feet deep, which would be way back inside that parking lot. I don't think there's any intersection in the city, that actually meets that requirement. So what we've done is we've proposed an alternative to use the PennDOT site distance calculations and provide that.
Okay, and did I say about speed reduction? Was that part of my question? I forgot.
Yes.
Well, you did mention speed reduction, and I assumed that meant speed bumps, but I don't know.
No, I meant speed reduction, just approaching those, the position of where those bollards are.
Well, that would certainly be up to the city to do that. I mean, we don't have the authority to, that would have to be adopted by ordinance. Any reduction in speeds, and it would have to be based, I believe, on the 85th percentile on a speed study on the street. So we don't have the authority to do that. I mean, we would certainly.
Mr. Gattone, I believe what would have to happen is the city would have to do a traffic study to support a reduction in speed from I believe it's 25 miles an hour on McKnight Street. And I think 25 miles an hour might be the lowest speed that the PennDOT regs allow unless it's in a school zone during school periods. So I don't think it can go lower than 25 miles an hour there.
I think you're
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I don't have any questions at this point. Now, does anybody in the audience have any questions? And I mean just questions. We don't care whether you're for it or against it. All we want to do is hear questions. And you need to give your name and your address before you ask your question. So is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question about this appeal? All right, it appears there is not anybody. I don't think there's anybody on the screen that has any questions.
And then I guess you should find out if anybody wants to give testimony for or against the application.
Yeah, I will in just a second, but I wanted to make sure I got the questions in first. All right, now, is there anybody that wishes to testify for or against this appeal? Either in the audience or on the screen? I don't see anybody. All right, Mr. Boyer, do you have any final comments you would like to make?
My final comment would be, I would just request the board's consideration of these variances in light of the ongoing citywide parking relief program that the parking authority has instituted and continues to work on with the city. It's looking beyond the commercial core of the city and looking to create parking relief to residents throughout the entire city. This requested parking lot is part of that initiative to create available parking for residents. And we would just, again, request the board's consideration of these variances. Thank you.
Mr. Price, any comments or questions?
None. I appreciated Mr. Boyer's presentation. It was succinct and hit all the relevant spots.
Okay, Mr. Neff, any comments or questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to close this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be present. The decision will be mailed to you. And we thank all of you for your presentation and in the manner in which you did it. Thank you. Okay. We are going to move on to appeal 2022-49, which is 1200 North 10th Street. Again, the Reading Parking Authority is requesting variances of sections 600-1401.A, which is buffer, 16 600-1503.A site triangle, 600-1602.BMJ and L parking standards. And the overall goal of the application is to allow surface parking of 9 spaces as a principal use. That lot is located in an R3 zoning district. Okay, would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, has notice for this appeal been given?
Yes, it has.
Okay, Mr. Price.
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, thank you. And I would assume, Mr. Boyer, you're going to be counsel again?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and we'll do the same thing. We'll let you enter your appearance. We'll swear in anybody you're going to have give testimony, and then we can begin.
Thank you. Malin Boyer, I'd like to enter my appearance as counsel for the Reading Parking Authority. I'm with the firm of Bingham and Hess, 2 Meridian Boulevard, Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, 19610. I would ask for the swearing in of the following witnesses: Nathan Matz, Craig Bonenberger, and Greg Richardson.
Okay,
All right.
will you swear them in, please?
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
I
do.
do.
Thank you.
Okay, you can begin.
As before, I would ask the ability to initially make an offer of proof if that's agreeable with the board.
Yes,
Thank you. The Reading Parking Authority purchased 1200 North 10th Street as part of its citywide parking relief program. That program is meant to create available parking to city residents throughout the city. The parking relief program is meant to alleviate the parking crisis in the city. The property at 1200 North 10th Street is presently vacant. It has unique characteristics. It is extremely small and permits a very limited amount of development. 3 of its 4 sides have road frontage. One side is bounded by a residential lot on which there is a house that is built over the lot line. Prior to the parking authority's ownership, the property was used for parking by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. As designed and proposed, the lot would accommodate 9 parking spaces. There would be entry to those parking spaces from Marion Street for each space. A new sidewalk with an apron and depressed curbing would be installed. Also, a grass area on either side of the lot would be installed. The parking authority seeks a variance from the requirement of ordinance 600-1401A. It requests the elimination for the requirement of a buffer strip between the parking lot and the residential use abutting it. Parking authority would not be able to use the property for a parking lot to accommodate 9 spaces if it had to install this buffer zone. As designed, the parking authority proposes a 2-foot buffer strip where the neighboring building does not encroach onto the parking authority's property. Parking authority would be willing to install a solid vinyl fence or a fence with screening between its lot and the neighboring residential property. The parking authority also seeks a variance from the requirements of ordinance 600-1503A. Parking authority requests that it be permitted to proceed without clear sight triangles. The required clear sight triangle would force the elimination of most of the proposed parking spaces and would be inapplicable because vehicles are going to back out of spaces onto Marion Street. Parking authority seeks a variance from the requirements of ordinance 600-1602B. The parking authority requests the elimination for the requirement for access from the side alley. The required access will eliminate most of the proposed parking spaces. It would leave a maximum of 3 spaces in the lot rather than the 9 that are proposed. If called to testify, Greg Richardson, a traffic engineer from Traffic Planning and Design, would offer his expert opinion to confirm the following in regard to vehicles backing out of the proposed spaces onto Marion Street. The intersection at 10th and Marion is controlled by stop signs. Traffic on Marion Street at the proposed location is low speed as a result. The posted speed limit on Marion Street is 25 miles per hour. The proposed apron for the parking lot is 81 feet in length. This creates clear viewing distances for vehicles backing out of the proposed parking lot. Marion Street is 33.5 feet wide. This allows a large maneuver area for vehicles backing out of the proposed parking spaces. The conditions of this proposed lot are similar to a shopping center parking area. There are currently at least 6 other locations in the city with parked vehicles that back into lanes of travel, including 4 locations on Penn Street, 1 on Moss Street, and 1 on Cedar Street. A review of crash dates for these 6 locations from the years 2017 through 2022 confirmed that each of the current and existing locations noted averaged only 0 to 1 crash per year involving parking maneuvers. Mr. Richardson would offer his conclusion that the parking authority's proposed plan will not create an adverse impact to the public from a traffic safety perspective. The parking authority seeks a variance from the requirements of ordinance 600-1602M. The parking authority requests the elimination of this requirement because there are city lights in this area that already provide the required illumination. There are lights presently located at 10th and Marion, as well as 10th and Clover. The parking authority seeks a variance from the requirements of ordinance 600-1602J. The installation of curbing, guardrails, a landscape strip, or anchored wheel blocks along Marion Street would prevent all of the proposed parking at the parking lot. Finally, the parking authority seeks a variance from the requirements of ordinance 600-1602L. The ordinance states that no part of any surface parking area for more than 5 vehicles shall be closer than 10 feet to any dwelling. Compliance with this requirement would prevent the use of the property as a parking lot because the property is narrow and because the neighboring home is already located over the lot line. In summary, given its unique physical conditions and to maximize available parking to city residents, strict compliance with the requirements of the noted zoning ordinances is not possible. There is an unnecessary hardship due to the conditions of the property created by its historical use and not based on any actions of the parking authority. The authorization of the noted variances is necessary to enable a reasonable use of the property. The variances, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or the district where the property is located. The variances, if granted, will not substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent properties, nor be detrimental to the public welfare. If authorized, the requested variances are the minimum variances that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible. And that's my offer of proof. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to the board first with questions. Mr. Bars, question?
No questions.
Mr. Fox, questions?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Gattone?
Just one question. Mr. Matz is there yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, some of the people have asked me via telephone calls, how are people going to access this? Is there going to be paid entry for parking? Who gets to enter these wonderful parking lots? And I'm not being facetious.
Sure. The way most of the citywide parking relief parking lots are set up is that it's a monthly permit. So somebody would go online on their website and sign up for a permit. It's a digital permit. They just enter their plate and we enforce it by the plate. There's no hang tags. So that's how this lot would be set up, like most of the other residential lots are.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Jones, question.
No questions.
Okay. I have a question. Are you going to use electronic surveillance on this lot also?
We are not planning on doing that at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Price, question.
I have none.
Mr. Neff, questions?
Yes, I actually have a few questions. Okay, my first question would be the church that used this parking lot prior, did they have a permit to use this for parking or did they use it illegally?
I dealt directly with their pastor. I don't know the answer to that question. I know they were using it for a parking lot. I don't know if they had a permit to do so.
Okay. When they used it as a parking lot, how many cars did they park there?
I do not know.
Okay. Did they eliminate street parking when they parked on the parking lot?
I do not know.
So, well, you don't know. So like, okay, so then the question would be, how would you have parking on the lot without disturbing the on-street parking?
Are you asking in regard to the church's use or the proposed use by the parking authority?
The church's use. I'm trying to verify that the street parking was still intact when the church, whether or not it was legal or illegal, and used it for parking. If they used it for 9 parking spaces, which would have disturbed the on-street parking, or if they used it for like 3 or 4 parking spaces.
Right, so my conversations with the pastor, it was my understanding that they used it for their church parking. After we had negotiations and discussions in their selling it to the parking authority, they had requested a continued use of the lot for parking for the church after the parking authority had developed it as a parking lot. As far as specific details in regard to when they used it, how many cars were there, and whether the on-street parking was eliminated, I can't speak to that beyond knowing through their pastor that they had used it for parking.
Okay. Could this lot be used for a home?
Mr. Bonenberg, do you have any?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Could the vacant lot be used to reconstruct a home?
Well, not in maintained setback lines, no. It's basically a 20-foot wide lot. I don't know what let me see. Front yard setback is 5 feet, so you would have a 15-foot wide house at maximum. I suppose, I mean, you wouldn't have 15 feet because the existing house on the adjacent lot encroaches on this lot. So you probably have only 14 or 13 feet.
So when I looked at this plan, to have 9 parking spaces back out onto the street, you're basically using the street as what would normally be a parking aisle. And that seems highly problematic. And so it's not just going into the street, it's crossing a sidewalk. So one of the things that local government is always charged with is the intent of public safety. And through the testimony of the legal counsel providing the statements of fact, there was that there would be no detriment to the public welfare. So the board's going to have to consider whether or not 9 cars backing out across a sidewalk into a street is going to impact public welfare, honestly. And the final question I would have is for the expert who's willing to give testimony that nine cars backing out onto a street across the parking lot is deemed in an expert opinions perspective to be safe, are they saying that they are willing to accept any liability for any accident or injury that occurs in this location?
Well, first of all, that, just for the record, his testimony is not a warranty or indemnification. So, I mean, that's not what expert testimony is for. So he is expressing his opinion, whether the board accepts it or not, that's for the board to determine, but he's not indemnifying.
Right. I understand that, but I just want to show the obviousness of no one in the right mind would take the liability for that. And yet the city, if the city approves this, the city is in a sense stepping out and saying, yeah, we endorse this and we're going to waive safety features for the gaining of, there's already 4 parking spots on the street. This is only for a net increase of 5 parking spaces. And we're going to dispose of safety measures in place. The board's going to have to carefully consider. So it'd be my recommendation as the zoning administrator that this is not a prudent move. And that'd be the end of my comments.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Anybody in the audience have any questions relative to this application? Just questions, not whether you're for it or against it. We'll get to that. We need your name and your address, and then ask your question and give people time to answer it properly.
We good? Thank you. My name is Jason Scheck. My address is 4522A Safranca Road. I am the president of the Jackson Democratic and Social Club, a business on the block that would be directly affected by this. I'm also the president of JDSC Holdings, an LLC company that owns the building that would be directly next to said parking lot. My first question is, can someone clarify for me how many street parking spaces we would be losing?
4.
Okay, and did anything go into said plan that would make those public parking spaces up to any of the businesses directly affected by this lot going in? There are 3 within very close proximity that require those street parking spaces to continue to conduct business.
Mr. Boyer, any comment?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is it just a matter of?
He wants to know if you're going to allocate 4 of those spaces to the businesses, because then patrons can't park on the street, so they'd have to park further away. So they're going to have 4 free spots for local businesses and 5 monthly paying spots for residents. I think that's what you were asking, right, sir?
Correct.
Yeah, this is Nathan. First, I don't necessarily agree with the assumption that there's 4 legal parking spaces in that space to begin with. That's on the street. Your proper setback from your radius, you don't have 4 in there. So we're looking at 3 spaces. Could a business come to us and, we provide some spaces on that lot available to a business? Sure. We've done that in some of our other parking lots that we've made available to the public.
Okay, then I think nextly where I would go from there then is having those public parking spaces and not eliminating them and allowing access is the difference from, let's say, 3 to 4 possible public parking spaces and 3 parking spaces in the lot. That big of a difference to cause all of the disturbance than creating 9 spaces as opposed to 7. I don't see where this is mutually beneficial for anyone.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are there others that have questions there? I think there were a couple. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. My name is Freddie Adams, 1154 North 10th Street. I'm the owner of Vision Bar Lounge. My question is, who benefits off of this? We got 2 businesses on that block. Do we get any benefits off of this?
And that's for Mr. Boyer or Mr. Matz?
Yeah, as I stated before, we're creating a net increase of parking. We're adding 6 additional spaces. So who benefits from that? Residents and business owners.
So how many do we benefit off of?
Hmm?
I mean, you got
As
two
I
businesses
mentioned-
struggling for parking as it is.
As I mentioned before, part of the parking relief program is not just for residents. There are spaces that would be available for businesses as well.
Okay. One,
more that I didn't get in the last time too. Is there any guarantee that by adding these 9 spaces, it is going to clear any of the congestion on our particular block? Are those spaces reserved for people that live within a certain proximity, or are people that live 2 and 3 blocks away going to be able to take these spaces, lose 3 to 4 street parking spaces? Like, where's the guarantee that this is going to clear up any congestion in our particular specific area?
Our job is not to guarantee a parking relief on a specific block. We are looking more globally for the city itself as a whole. And so we're looking at net increasing of spacing wherever that may come.
Gotcha. So then I think as an overall statement, then would you be able to say that you consider decongesting parking more important than the survival of local businesses?
No, clearly, as I stated before, we're 100% in favor of supporting local businesses. Look at all our other CPR lots, right? We have reserved spaces for businesses. We have partnered with multiple businesses throughout the entire city.
Okay. And then does anyone know currently that how is this zoned as it stands right now today? For anyone, before anyone answers that, I'm sorry to clear up some of the questions that were asked before. When the church used that for a parking lot, they used it for 4 spaces. I've been around the area.
It's a residential zone.
yeah,
It's an R3 zone.
R3 zone.
So then why are 2 spaces being currently rented today as we speak before any of these things were done?
Are you renting spaces, Mr. Matz?
I would have to check on that. I don't directly deal with that.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Is there anybody else in the audience with questions? One last call. All right.
Yes. My name's Tiffany Scheck. I live at 4522A Safranca Road. And
I'm sorry, say your name again and spell it.
Tiffany Scheck, SCHECK, 4522A Safranca Road, Temple.
All right. Now, how are you interested? How do you have standing for this hearing? Are you,
My husband is the president of the Jackson's Democratic Club and I am employed there.
right, as an employee, you don't have standing. If you were an officer and you were authorized to represent the Jackson Democratic Club, then you could participate, but your
I
husband,
can't ask any questions about parking.
no,
I park there every day.
you can't. You don't own real estate there. You don't have an interest in this hearing.
Okay, I think there was 1 or 2 other people. If you're not in the area,
Hi, sorry, this is Emily with the zoning office. I believe everyone else just has comment and testimony, not questions.
All right, so if we have a number of people that want to give comments, either for or against, and somebody has already given a comment that you agree with, saying the same thing 2, 3, or 4 times does not carry any weight. So what would happen is if Joe Jones said exactly what you were going to say, either for or against it, you would just get up, be sworn in, testify your name and your address and say, if I were to testify, I would agree with what Mr. Jones said. That way you preserve your standing on the record. Does anybody have any questions?
okay,
Okay. So who's our first witness? Either for, who wants to give testimony for this application? Is there anybody?
okay.
Doesn't look like it. Who wants to give testimony against?
Raise your hand if you want to testify. Okay,
Who do we have?
you're going to get sworn, give your name and address. You're going to get sworn in and then give us your reasons why.
All right,
Thank
please
you.
raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, for the record, state your name and spell it and your address.
It's Jason. The last name is Scheck, Scheck, 4522A Safranca Road.
Okay. Do you own real estate within a block of this property?
I am the representative of an LLC that does, yes.
Okay. And what is the name of the LLC?
JDSC Holdings.
Okay. You may testify, sir.
Thank you. I do not believe, based on the location and the way that vehicles would have to access said location, that this would in any way be beneficial for this specific neighborhood. I appreciate that the Reading Parking Authority has a large global plan to alleviate parking throughout the city of Reading, and I believe that there are excellent locations where this can be achieved. I also believe that there are locations where this should not be attempted to be achieved. This is most certainly one of them. I'm glad that someone testified that they believe that the accessing of this lot, backing out onto Marion Street and all of the said things seems like a good idea, but personally, being in that neighborhood on an almost daily basis for many, many years, I have a tendency to disagree with those statements. A few extra parking spaces for a few people that we can't even guarantee that are from that particular neighborhood, it seems very anti-productive to the entire situation. Those street parking spaces are vital. They're vital to all of the local businesses that are around there. There are 2 bars that require those. There is a small grocery store in the corner that require those. And for the thousands and thousands of people that use those public parking spaces in and out all day long, to lose those for 9 private spaces that no one else is going to be able to use, to me is not what this was intended for. Like I said, there are many places where this is a good idea. I'm sorry, 1200 North 10th Street is not one of them.
All right. Now, Mr. Boyer, do you have any questions for this witness?
No.
Okay. Do any members of the board have any questions for this witness?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do any members of the audience who own real estate close to the subject property have any questions for this witness? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that wants to give testimony against this application?
Okay, come to the podium, get sworn in, give us your name and address.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Full name,
name's-
spell it, and your address, please.
My name's Thomas Fegley, Fegley. I am
Where-
also a board member that own JDSC and the
Right.
Jackson Democratic Club.
All right, are you gonna agree with the prior witness's testimony?
I have other things to say, but I'm gonna agree with it, but yes, I'd like to clarify a few.
All right, well, why don't you address the other issues then, sir?
Okay. The encroachment that you guys have mentioned. We just bought the property at 1202 within the last year, and no mention of it was made by the title company. The only encroachment I can see is when they tore the building down at 1200 because it was falling down. They left the alleyway going back there that was shared by both buildings. You guess he could have torn down half of it, then they would have had to redo the wall better. The width, can you build a home there? It had a home there, and it has an extremely wide surface, sidewalk onto the Marion Street side that is completely falling apart. At one point had a signpost sticking up out of it. there's a lawsuit going on right now in the city because someone got injured walking on that sidewalk. I'm hoping they would fix that if this goes through. So it was used for a home. The parking authority, the church used it illegally. City was aware of it and let them do it there, even though it didn't have the stone parking lot on it, the stones on it. We offered the Jacksons to pave that parking lot for the church, put lights in it and shovel the snow and take care of it for them and let them use it for their church services on Saturdays. And they declined to let us do that for them so we could get some parking spaces out of it because parking is terrible in that whole neighborhood. So, but my thing is you're using it already now for 2 parking spaces. We know this because we tried to rent them from Mr. Gantz and he wouldn't rent them to us. So I debate the encroachment. They're already using a lot, I guess, against who should know better that the law is about parking than the parking authority. And the low volume of traffic on Marion Street quite often during the day is fire trucks coming up that street. Multiple times, more than multiple times. You'd have to check your records how often they get dispatched. But numerous times the fire department comes rolling by there. So I wanted to bring those things up and answer some of the questions you guys pretended to be dumb about. And that's all I got to say, but.
All right. Does anybody, thank you, sir. Does that, Mr. Boyer, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yeah.
All right. Any members of the board have any questions for this witness? Anybody in the audience who owns real estate close to the subject property have any questions for this witness? All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that wants to give testimony against this application? All right, seeing none, Mr. Rabin, I think you can close the evidentiary portion of this hearing.
Actually, someone else just came up.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Full name, spell it, and your address.
Ferdinand Adames, Ferdinandades.
Your address?
1154 North 10th Street, the owner of Vision Bar and Lounge.
Okay.
My problem is, can I speak?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, my problem is I don't see anybody benefit but parking authority benefiting off of this. Like, you got 2 businesses, like I said, on that block, and we are struggling just for parking. And when we do get parking, I have to go outside around 12 o'clock at night to make sure that nobody gets a ticket. And if they, it's just tough. It's tough for us. So like I said, I don't think it's a good idea. All I see is the parking authority just adding more money to their account, to their bank account, and that's about it.
All right.
We're
Okay,
struggling.
thank you.
Mr. Boyer, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yeah.
All right, any members of the board have any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience have any questions for this witness?
Okay. Seeing none, we're going to close this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting.
Mr. Rubina, Mr. Price,
Yes?
I'm sorry, could Mr. Matz make a final closing statement?
Certainly.
Thank you. I just wanted to address 2 quick things. One is this misnomer that we're going to actually make money on this endeavor. I just want to set the record straight on that all our financial forecasting on this, we will never actually break even, let alone ever make money on this project. The whole point of CPR is not to make money. That is why the reduced rate way below market value is the rate of which we've been renting all of our parking lots. That's the first thing.
What
And
is
again,
the rate, Mr. Matz?
It varies depending on the location, but it starts typically around $30 a month per parking space.
So
about
if-
$1
So
a day.
if the Jackson Democratic Club wanted to spend $270 a month, they could get all 9 spots, or the Vision Bar, or they could split them.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was my other statement I was going to make, like you just mentioned, that part of the parking relief is not just for residents, but we're talking about creating a net increase of parking that, in theory, will reduce the congestion there, whether it's for the business directly or for the resident. Regardless, it's creating more off-street parking, which will relieve the congested on-street situation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Let me ask Mr. Matz one question. If the zoning board was inclined to grant the relief requested here, but put a condition in that right of first refusal would have to go to these 2 business owners before they were offered to the general public, would that be an agreeable condition?
For the entirety of the lot?
Or a portion thereof?
I would say sure, for a portion of it. Typically what we're doing on these lots is we're making portions available for businesses and then portions available for the residents. And if one, that's kind of how we offer it. And then if there's vacancies, then we allow the crossover. But yeah, we would absolutely entertain that.
So let me ask the gentleman who's the head of the Jackson Democratic Club, if there was a condition imposed on the parking authority that a certain portion of those spaces would have to be allocated to your entity and to the gentleman that owns the Visions pub, would that make this request more agreeable to you, or?
I would say that we would need something a little bit more specific than the generalizations he continues to give. I mean, if he would be willing to offer us the 9 spaces at the current rate, we would take all 9 today. If someone could hand me that contract, I'd sign it.
Okay. How about the gentleman that owns Visions? Would that be something you'd be interested in as well?
Absolutely. We're working together on this project. We would absolutely be willing to share said parking lot.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your candor and appreciate everybody working together. And that's what the whole point of these hearings is about, and about making the businesses and the residential uses more convenient for the citizens of the city. So thank you.
Okay, so I think that will close this appeal. We'll make a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you. And we really thank everybody for their input and their comments. Sometimes these things can get a little contentious, but I always appreciate when, people are respectful of each other. And so I thank all of you in this matter. Okay, Sandy, are you okay?
I am, thank you.
All right. The next is Appeal 2022-50, 1430 Church Street. Would you swear in our zoning officer?
Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, has notice for this appeal been given?
Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price.
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, thank you. This is a case where Andeli A. Rivera is requesting a variance of section 600-804.A R3 bulk regulation. The overall goal of the application is to allow a gazebo that exceeds the maximum building coverage and exceeds the maximum impervious coverage. The subject is located in the R3 zoning district. Mr. Rivera, is Mr. Rivera represented by counsel? Does anybody know?
I believe Mr. Rivera needs the assistance of an interpreter. I believe I was told that.
Yes, that's fine. And we will swear you in at this time, Mr. Gran.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to interpret truthfully and accurately to the best of your ability tonight?
I do.
Thank you. And the
And
witness,
And we'll swear in Mr. Rivera.
Señora Rivera, hay que prestar juramento. Señora Rivera está presente.
Is she there?
I don't see him anyplace unless.
It's a,
he's on the
I think it's a her.
phone. Oh.
Señora Rivera.
I'm here, yes. I don't need an interpreter.
Okay, very good.
All right. So it's, and your name is, sir?
Anelio Rivera.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess let's swear him in.
please raise your right hand.
Go ahead. Go
Do you
ahead.
swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, let me walk you through some questions to get some basic facts for this appeal. You do you own 1430 Church Street, sir?
Yes.
And with whom do you reside there?
With my mother.
Okay, and your first name is Aneudy, or is that your mom's name?
That's my first name.
That's your first name. And you constructed a gazebo in the backyard that exceeds the maximum building coverage, correct?
Yes.
And there's photographs in the package that show the gazebo and the plantings and your lawn. And those are accurate photos, I believe, correct?
Yes, they are accurate.
And how long has that gazebo been there?
It hasn't been too long. It's been probably about a
year, two?
No, I'd say about 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months. And you didn't realize that by constructing that, you might have run against zoning rules, did you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You didn't realize that you were violating zoning when you constructed
No.
that gazebo. And you submitted a petition from a number of your neighbors, probably numbering at least 15 or 20 neighbors who support your construction, say it's a nice addition to the neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
And have any of your neighbors complained to you about this structure?
No, none at all.
Is it causing any water runoff to bother your neighbors or their property?
No.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. I have a question of Mr. Neff. It said that 75% is allowable and he's at 78%. And the maximum impervious, I think, is 60% and he's at 68. About how much space does that represent? I didn't do the math on this and I thought maybe you guys did.
I didn't do the math on that.
All right, well then we
I'll
won't.
tell you.
Okay, we won't worry about it, but you did give, we do know the difference in the percentages. Let me ask you this. This is definitely a gazebo and it's not a carport, is it? Because it looks like there's a big retaining wall in the back of the property. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so in other words, this is at 2 different levels.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna go to the other board members. Mr. Fox, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Bars, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Gatone, question?
Yeah, first off, I want to make certain I'm looking at the correct picture. There was a photo taken on December the 6th, just a couple days ago, of the rear of the property. It's in color. It's a nice picture. And it shows, I'm looking at it and I think I see the gazebo sort of in the center with like some orange drapery. I'm going to wait till Mr. Price gets that picture organized. The picture is on the staff report. Do you have that picture in front of you?
Who, me?
Yes,
Yes, I do.
okay. And Mr. Rivera, are you? Well, there's the picture looking at it. I'm looking at the house in the background. Just to clear, is that two property? Is that two houses back there? There's a light color and then there's a reddish color. Is that two houses or is that just one house I'm looking at?
No, well, on my house, it's connected to one house and then there's like a little alley space and then to the left is another.
It's two homes, Mr. Gatto.
Yes.
His house is the white colored house.
Okay, so those two houses are, all right, they're together. All right.
Yes.
Now, all right, we got the gazebo there. Now, is Mr. Herrera going to testify tonight?
I don't think so.
I don't believe he's present. I don't think he could make
No.
it.
Okay, and the reason I asked that, because this will solve a whole lot of problems in my mind. There was a drawing presented which showed something that to me, if you go to the end of the staff report, I forget what page it would be, right toward the end. To me, it looks like something like proposed. To me, it looks like a carport. I don't understand the inclusion of those pictures. Do you see them, Mr. Price? You know what I'm talking about there? There's
Yeah,
two-
these are just drawings of the gazebo.
no, but that's not that picture that we're looking at on the second or third page of the staff report. That picture does not look at all.
Well, then you have the gazebo and then you have the roof that's attached, a second roof that's attached to the rear of the home. That's existing. You can clearly see it. They're on both homes.
Yes, I see that. So that drawing then that Mr. Herrera provided is not something new that's proposed.
No, that's what's there.
Oh, my God. Okay. So now that's the only thing we have to discuss is that gazebo that is sitting there right now and nothing that Mr. Herrera is proposing to build.
Nope.
All right, that answered everything. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Jones, questions?
No questions.
Okay, I have no questions. Mr. Price?
I have none.
Mr. Neff, questions?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a point. As far as the gazebo, it's considered a roof structure because it has columns and it has a roof. So the one concern that we might have from a zoning perspective is that in the future, because there's an existing roof covered square footage, that a home could be expanded. So I would just request a condition that this would not translate or mutate into a deemed approval to expand the entire home for that square footage.
Okay, right, so that it can't be attached to the home or used as a living space or anything
Right,
like
because
that.
technically it's a roof structure supported by
Right.
columns, so it just, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that information. All right, anybody in the audience have any questions of this applicant? Just questions? All right, seeing none. Anybody in the audience want to testify for this application? Seeing none. Anybody want to testify against the application? Seeing none. Okay. Anybody have any last comments that they would like to make? All right, seeing none. That concludes this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you. And we thank you and we thank everybody for the clarification too. Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
Mr. McGran, I don't know if we're going to need you anymore or not, so I would say
Well,
hang in there.
Yeah, there's two more cases that
Yes.
have worked on their, all that last case and the next two both indicated on their application that they wanted a translator.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. All right. Sandy, you're still okay?
We take 2 minutes, please.
All right. We'll take a little bit of a break here. Mr. Neff, if you have a cell phone handy, could you call Bill Harst home and tell him at the bottom of his iPad, there should be that thing that he can unmute himself? And I don't know if you can reach him or not, because he'd been muted through this whole thing and I couldn't figure out a way to. So maybe if you had a minute, you could give him a call and see if he could get himself unmuted.
Okay, I don't know.
Or maybe
Yes.
you can,
I
yeah.
don't know Bill's phone number. It looks like he's trying to get help there, but if you want, I could try and give him a call if you have his number handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do it from here.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Rabina.
Okay, we're trying to get, I think we got Mr. Harsh unmuted. Is that correct, Mr. Harsh? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me, Phil?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, Sandy, you're ready?
I am, thank you.
All right, we are at Appeal 2022-51. This involves 743 Thorn Street, 730 North 3rd Street, and 220 Douglas Street. And this is the name of the company, TMC2 LLC and TMC1 LLC is requesting variances and or special exceptions of sections 600-804 8R3 regulations, 600-607 non-conforming uses, 600-902 more than one principal use, 600-1401/1402 screening, 600-1602 parking design. The overall goal of the application is to create a parking lot for the business located at 220 Douglas Street by subdividing 730 North 3rd Street, then annexing the western half of 743 Thorn Street and 220 Douglas Street. The subject properties are located in the R3 zoning district, and 730 North 3rd Street is located in the Center Park Historic District. Let's swear in Mr. Neff, please.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Has notice for this appeal been given?
Yes, it has.
Mr. Price?
Thanks. Put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, and Mr. Grand will swear you in at this point.
You swear to interpret truthfully and accurately to the best of your ability tonight.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to tell the applicant, or I don't know, I don't think he has an attorney.
He does have an attorney.
Pardon?
Okay.
Good evening, Conrad Jarzen on behalf of Mr.
Oh,
Tolentino.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
You want to enter your appearance, and then anybody you're going to have testify, or if you're going to do an offer of proof, whatever, you can let us know. We have our interpreter standing by and he's sworn in, so I'll let you begin.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Conrad Jarzyna, Jarzyna, attorney for the applicant, which are the two entities mentioned before, TMC1 and TMC2 LLC, as well Mr. Raul Tolentino, who is the managing member of those two entities. And we plan to have testimony from the surveyor, Mr. Loudenslayer, and I was thinking we'll start with him, and then as far as Mr. Tolentino's testimony, maybe I'll have an offer of proof as to just general overview of his proposals. I also would like to mention that as far as the interpreter, when Mr. Tolentino testifies or answers questions, we would need an interpreter. Otherwise, I think he will be okay without us having to interpret every word of what's being said. Is that okay, Mr. Tolentino?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get those people sworn in at this point.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Loudenslager is still muted. He needs to unmute himself. Okay. All right. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. You're still, okay, now you're unmuted.
Yeah, I lost it.
Mr. Price, Mr. Loudenslayer has appeared before this body before
Yes.
as surveyor. Can we just stipulate that he has the qualifications?
Certainly.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Loudenslayer, instead of me interrupting you with questions, can you just give us an overview of what's being proposed as far as this whole project?
I certainly can. This project is composed of 3 separate deeds. There's a property that fronts on 3rd Street that goes all the way back to Thorn Street. There's a standalone portion of property that it fronts on Thorn Street. And then there's the piece of property that extends from that piece of property out to Douglas Street and fronts on Douglas Street. The property that fronts on Douglas Street has an existing restaurant building in it. What we went through the planning commission and had comments from them, and what we proposed is subdividing the property that fronts on 3rd Street to allow the property that is the portion of that property that fronts on Thorn Street to be annexed to the Douglas Street property. That way we create parking spaces. As a goal to create parking spaces in the community, 2 parking spaces will be identified for the residential lot on that fronts on 3rd Street. The balance of the parking spaces will be for the restaurant. We did stormwater testing, and we have infiltration beds so that we are not creating a stormwater issue with the facilities. We have the screening along the residential properties and along Thorn Street, which should alleviate the any headlight and those kind of issues, and allow some isolation. And the lighting will be shielded so that it's not creating problems with the bleeding over onto the neighboring property.
How many total spaces in addition to the 2 for the residential use? How many will there be?
Total spaces, including those, are 18.
Okay, so 16. And what's the name of the restaurant?
Oh, boy.
The restaurant will be named Platinum Sports Bar. which is also, it's an entity owned by Mr. Talentino.
What was it before? Was it a restaurant before?
Yes, it
What
was a bar and restaurant, I believe. I was not familiar with the establishment. I was there maybe 20 years ago.
It wasn't Tommy. Was it Tommy's? Is that,
Yeah.
is that what it was?
It was sofritos. Sofritos.
Oh, before, yeah, it's so great, but before that it was done. Okay, now I know where it is. All right, I got you.
Mr. Loudenslayer, anything else you wanted to add as far as your overview?
When I was preparing the plan, the impervious area, when you connect all the properties together, will be slightly more than what's allowed by the zoning. I did take 2 parking spaces off of it to create some more landscaping within the parking spaces. So we could have a potential for 20 parking spaces, but then I'm not quite sure. We were never able to have time to survey the Douglas Street property to see if there's any open space on that. Looking at it from the street, it looked like the majority of the property is building and structure. So we could meet the zoning requirement for the impervious area, but it would be a matter of decreasing parking spaces. So I would request that, in light of maximizing the amount of parking spaces, you give us some relief on that impervious area.
And you mentioned the screening and the light issue. Can you just tell us more specifically what you mean by the screening? What was there anything specific that is being proposed?
The ordinance requires shrubbery to be as screening between the residential properties and a commercial property. So we have screenings, the 6-foot wide screenings along the edges of the parking lot and along Thorn Street. The lighting is, I have that prepared by Penn Lighting, and they will put reflectors and stuff on the lighting so that the light does not bleed across the property lines onto the neighboring property.
Okay. And as far as other than the lighting screening, do you foresee any negative impact on the neighborhood with this proposed use?
The only there was a drive ramp into this property, which we have to relocate it, and but to make the handicap parking, I have to have an additional drive ramp into the property, because the handicap parking space has to be up next to the Douglas Street property. The parking lot is basically graded at 5%, which you can't have for the handicap parking. So so I put a separate handicap parking space that can pull in off of Thorn Street, and the only problem with that is they'd be backing in and out for that single space. The other spaces all drive in, and they pull in, and they can turn around and pull out.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add before the board can ask you questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with the board here. I guess I'm going to start this off. Can anybody enlighten me as to how this project got so far along before somebody kind of reorganized it, like Mr. Loudenslager? I'm not sure just exactly what happened here. It sounded like construction started, then it was brought to a halt through notices and so forth. And now somebody seems to have a cohesive plan. Can anybody enlighten me on to the history of this, please?
Mr. Loudenslayer, if you're not able to answer that, I may defer to Mr. Talentino.
I think you'd have to defer to them because when I first saw the site, whatever was on the Thorn Street properties had been removed. So I'm not aware what was there prior to that, and you know that they had removed it, and it's been basically vacant since then.
All right, we can come back to my question. I'll go on to the other board members and whatever, and we'll come back to that later. Mr. Barrs, question.
I do not have any questions at this time.
What?
Terrible. Dile que te puedo hablar. Yo puedo hablar.
Okay, Mr. Barrs, question.
I do not have any questions at this time.
Okay, Mr. Gattone.
Okay, now, we can't go out to the property now that since the hearing has been, will have been completed soon. I just have one follow-up. It's going to relate to the staff report. The very first page, if you have a chance to look at it right now, it's a picture, I guess it might be Mr. Neff's finger pointing to looks like a Center Park district with streets, and he has outlined. Are you with me on that picture, gang?
Yeah.
Mr. Price?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now to the attorney, you're familiar with the term Venn diagram, aren't you?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay, well, since I would really appreciate if you have, because this has been surveyed, if we could have the surveyor give as a total picture, the universe of the 3 properties involved in this, because it's very confusing to me. I'm looking at this thing. The universe being the 3 properties all together as the outline. And then the divisions would be in different colors, showing the surveyor's outline of the 3 properties as they stand today. Would it be possible for the surveyor to give that to us? The universe of the diagram with the subdivision being the lines in different colors showing property A, property B, property C. I think that would be really helpful to us to understand this, frankly, this confusing situation.
So what Mr. Gattone's asking for, is for you to supplement the record after the hearing by giving a more detailed survey of it, showing property A, property B, property C, what's being subdivided off and what's being annexed.
I can do something that'll make that a lot clearer.
Okay.
And show the square footage and stuff. I certainly can't do it for the meeting tonight.
Yeah, if you can
Right.
just get that to Mr.
Right.
Neff, maybe before the new year, that would be helpful.
Okay, yes, we'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fox, question.
Not at this time.
Mr. Harsh, question. Mr. Harsh, question.
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Jones.
No, not at this time.
Okay, and I'm gonna skip over mine at this point. So continue, sir.
I don't have any more questions from the surveyor.
Okay.
Does anyone else there to ask him questions before I would start with
All
Mr.
right, does
Tonti?
anybody in the audience have any questions of the surveyor? Anybody in the audience?
I do.
Okay, it looks like a Mr. Paris has a question.
Yes.
Do you want to give us your name and your address, sir?
Yes, my name is Louis Paris. I live at 217 Oldie Street.
Okay, and what is your question, sir?
My question is, where are they going to exit from Thorn Street? Are they going to go straight down Thorn Street?
I'm wondering, I think there's a drawing that shows the entrance and the exits on something. Can you bring that up, Mr. Neff? I think it's like page 2, maybe, of the staff case report. There's a little bit of a map there. Keep going. It's at the top of page 2.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. So if you can see that, it looks like what, the entrance and exits are on Thorn Street, is that correct?
That's correct. Thorn Street is a one-way street to the south, I believe. So the cars would enter from Douglas Street, go down Thorn Street, make a right-hand turn into the parking lot. And then when they exit the parking lot, they'd have to make a left-hand turn on the Thorn Street and I think continue down to Oley Street.
Okay, does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, real bad idea. Real bad idea.
Okay, well, we'll get to comments a little bit later.
Yes.
But that answered your
Yes.
question. All right.
Yes, it did.
Anybody else in the audience have any questions of this applicant, of this?
I have a question.
All right, Mr. Rothmo, go ahead, give us your name and address, please.
My name is Fritz Rothermel. I live at 329 Douglas Street in Reading. I was wondering what the stormwater control is at the edge of the parking lot so that water doesn't wash down that 5% slope onto the sidewalk and into the street.
We did stormwater infiltration testing, and what I have designed in there are 2 underground beds that will receive the water from the parking lot prior to discharge, and the majority of it will be infiltrated, so that it should alleviate some of the stormwater issues on Thorn Street. There's no storm sewer systems to put an overflow, so if they overflow, the flows will have to go out and just into Thorn Street, but the underground gravel beds should, for the most part, control the storms.
And in cold weather, that will freeze, I suppose, if it goes into Thorn Street.
Well, it goes to Thorn Street now, it just goes uncontrolled to Thorn Street. So this way, the majority of the water will go into the underground beds, and it would only be some excess that would be discharged. So during the winter, you generally don't have your intense storms like you have in the summer and the thunderstorms. So as far as winter storms, it should be much better than it is now.
I appreciate your description of what's happening now. Going back to Mr. Rabina's question earlier about the previous condition of that site before it was worked on, it had a lot of trees on it and a lot of vegetation. And those trees were all cut down by somebody and the vegetation removed, which now results in water runoff down that slope. So that maybe that clarifies a little bit, Mr. Rabina, what was there before. Another question I would have is, how many on-street parking spaces will be lost with this project?
I would say 1, because to get the handicap parking space, I have to create an additional drive depression, which would probably take a parking space. But in the other case, we are adding 2 parking spaces for the house on 3rd Street. So we are actually decreasing some of the on-street parking for that property. So we really are, making a minor improvement into the area. The other thing with it's sad that trees are cut down. Unfortunately, they're gone, and we have shown on the landscaping plan putting shrubbery and some replacing some of the trees with the landscaping.
I appreciate the fact that you're adding some off-street parking spaces for the 3rd Street property. However, on-street parking on 3rd Street is not an issue because there's no real demand. There's less demand on 3rd Street. The problem is on Thorn Street, where you have 18 houses. They're also in that 700 block. And parking there is, I believe, very much in demand. My last question would be, in the application is there relief being sought from some of the landscaping requirements around the parking lot?
I don't believe we're asking for any relief. I have the buffer areas and I think we have achieved the requirements of the landscaping in the ordinance.
Mr. Rothenberg, in the application and the summary from the zoning administrator, there's no relief requested from the buffering.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good to see you again, by the way, Mr. Rothenberg.
Thank you, same, Steve.
Any other questions of Mr. Laudenslager by anybody? All right. Mr.
My name is Laura.
Jarzia,
We
anything
do, we
else?
do have more comments from the council chambers.
All right, again, it is a question for Mr. Laudenslager, not whether you like it or you don't like it. We'll get to that later. So give your name and your address and then ask your question, please. Thank you.
My name is Laurie Jakovic. I live at 740 Thorn Street. I am directly across the proposed lot.
Spell your last name.
Jakava, V as in Victor, ICK.
All right, please ask your question.
I actually have a few questions. My first would be, was a traffic study performed? Because this is a residential area that's being asked to rezone to commercial. My other question would be, where are the police going to park to monitor the activity that goes on at this club? Because every weekend, 2 police officers are stationed across the street from the current business. And so I'm concerned about the activities, the noise complaints, the parking lot. There is no possible way to get in and out of the street. And that's what I'm trying to find out. How are you going to maneuver cars out of that parking lot on a one-way narrow street? Also, can they explain to me why?
Let's ask one question at a time, ma'am. Okay, so let's go back to the first question and then we'll go.
Was a traffic study done?
No.
Thank you. My second question would be, who is going to be monitoring the activities of this club when there's a long police history at this club in Reading? It's being moved to a residential area and being asked to be rezoned as commercial for parking for the club, not for the residents. We're not talking about renting spaces. We're talking about a residential plot of land that is being asked to be rezoned commercial.
Yeah, excuse me, but I don't think anybody asked for a rezone. Did I miss something, Mr. Price or?
The house on 3rd Street is zoned residential. The back part of the property, which they bulldozed, is considered residential. They also removed 3 parking spots as of now. And so I am dealing with the runoff. So they've already removed 3 parking spots.
No,
and now you're
okay.
saying
So,
2.
so if the parking lot gets annexed to the Douglas Street property, it would essentially change what was a residential yard into a accessory parking lot, which would be a change of use from residential to commercial use.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make sure,
No,
because I didn't see any request for zoning change.
I've asked the question, but it's yet to be answered.
As far as the security question, if I may, if I can just ask for clarification, ma'am, you mentioned something about the club being moved to this location. I'm not sure if I understand.
Platinum Sports Bar is the proposed business from what we've been told that's coming in there. And it's
Right.
currently on 5th Street. I'm sorry, Center Avenue. I'm sorry, I have the street name wrong. However, the size of that business is a fraction of what the new proposed site can possibly hold.
I understand. Those are two separate entities, two separate businesses. The one on Center Avenue is to remain there. So there will be no changes to the Center Avenue business. That's Platinum Cafe Lounge. This one, Platinum Cafe Sports Bar, separate entities, separate business under the same ownership, with a little bit of a different approach, because it'll be more of just food restaurant focused with TV screens for, you know, people watching sports. As far as you're concerned with security, just as Mr. Tolentino's intent is to, which he's doing at the other establishment, is to employ the services of a security company and have presence there at all time to make sure not only that there is order inside of that place, around that place, also in the parking lot. So again, I just wanted to make sure that we know these are two separate businesses. There's no business being moved from one location to another.
Thank you for that clarification. I'd like to ask one final question. Can you give us an assurance that your previous business is not going to be shuttling to the new business and using the parking lot as a turnaround?
I don't, I mean, I'd like the question to be translated to Mr. Tolentino, because I mean, I don't think so, but I don't want to be the person giving assurances on behalf of my client. Like I said, the purpose and the
Well, can you answer that question?
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is Mr. Tolentino can answer that question. So let me just, Mr. Grant, can you just ask Mr. Tolentino if this, I believe the question was, can he give assurance that people will not be shuttled from the other establishment to this one?
Entonces, señor Tolentino, la señora quiere preguntar si se puede asegurar que no se va a mover personas de su primer lugar en Center Avenue para este nuevo.
No, that's not going to happen.
Mr. Tolentino, can you just elaborate more and just maybe just talk about how these businesses are separate? Because I think that would also answer the question and address the concerns that I'm reading in that question.
¿Puede dar un comentario un poco más largo y explicar cómo estos dos negocios son dos entidades separadas? Un comentario breve sobre eso.
Sí, esos son dos negocios separados. El propósito de crear ese negocio es viendo la necesidad de mejorar el neighborhood donde nosotros trabajamos.
Okay, one momentico. So these are going to be two separate businesses, and part of the reason of creating this new business is to improve the neighborhood, and he has more of the answers. Sigue.
Sí, son negocios familiares que nosotros hacemos para el crecimiento de nuestra ciudad, con una calidad que pueda competir con todos los mejores restaurantes que pueda haber aquí en el área.
And so these are family-run businesses, and we're going to have a top quality business can compete with some of the best restaurants in the area.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
My final question is, why was this work done without any permits and only stopped when the residents complained?
Bueno, primeramente, cuando nosotros
Okay, so la pregunta era, ¿por qué se comenzó el proyecto sin los permisos y solamente se detuvo la obra cuando los vecinos se quejaron?
Primeramente, lo que se hizo fue limpiar, porque eso lucía muy deprimente para el área de donde ella vivía. Es muy
So first of all, what we did was we cleaned, because boy, it had a very bad look and appearance, and he has more answer. Sigue.
So, habían personas utilizando jeringuilla y usando droga. So, nosotros los negocios que hacemos somos para limpiar y mejorar el vecindario donde trabajamos.
So there was evidence on the property that people were using needles and taking drugs on the property. And what we tried to do was we wanted to clean that up to make an improvement in the neighborhood.
I'm not talking about cutting down trees. I'm talking about bulldozing a lot, removing 3 parking curbs from Thorn Street without a permit, construction in your business without a permit.
Primeramente,
So, lo que yo estuve hablando es no cortar unos árboles, pero utilizar una maquinaria de mover tierra grande y romper 3 curvas en la calle Thorn.
y para eso se utilizaron esa máquina para limpiar y dejar eso limpio, que se viera que tenemos algo que no pone en riesgo la comunidad en la que estábamos ahí. Se veía mucha droga. En lo que yo estuve y miré, yo tuve que gastar dinero para limpiar y asegurarme de que ese vecindario estuviera bien. Por eso sacamos toda esa grama y esa maleza que había.
So what the machinery used was to clean up the area there. There was a lot of drug use there. It had a very bad aspect, and we cleaned up all the weeds and all the brush, and our object is to have a safer neighborhood.
Again, you have not answered my question. Why were curbs removed on our street and construction done without a permit?
Y la pregunta mía, ¿por qué se rompieron bordillos o en inglés curbs en la calle Thorn sin permiso?
Primeramente, eso no estaba ahí, no había cerca. Ella conscientemente sabe, los vecinos que están ahí estaban muy contentos porque se le limpió eso y se les puso más claro. La vecina que queda al frente de ella y todos los que están ahí agradecieron el valor que incrementó al limpiarle eso que estaba ahí.
So I understand this neighborhood has complaints, but the majority of the neighborhoods are very happy with the work's been done. They're very happy with the cleaning that we've done. The one neighbor on our side is very pleased and thanked us for the work that we've done.
All right, so he's got to
Again, my
answer the
answer is
question.
not-
Hold on, ma'am. Tell him to answer the question. Why did he start work without permits? I don't want to hear that he thinks it's a good idea. I want to know why he started work without permits. That's what the lady's asking.
Okay.
Tell him to answer the question directly.
So quiero que le dé una respuesta directa a la pregunta. Y no es que usted está a favor de cosas, personas agradecieron el trabajo, pero la pregunta clave, ¿y por qué comenzó a trabajar sin tener los permisos de la ciudad para efectuar las obras?
Primeramente, yo no sabía que necesitábamos el permiso.
Okay, momentico. First of all, I didn't know that we needed permits for that.
Yo pagué una compañía, el cual sí saben de ese trabajo, que deberían de haber asegurado de que esos permisos estaban. No lo hice yo.
I contracted a company to help clean this up, and I thought they would know the permits that would be needed in order to do that work.
What was the name of the
You own
company?
another business, correct?
The interpreter,
Business, correct? So you do know that permits are required, correct?
usted es dueño de un negocio y no sabe que se necesita sacar permisos antes de trabajar.
Sí, señora, primeramente, no es que no sé. Yo contrato una compañía para que haga su trabajo, que yo espero que ellos te dieran los permisos porque yo desconozco de esas regulaciones. Yo supongo y suponía, yo no hago nada en contra de la ley. Siempre nos hemos mantenido en
I do know that permits are needed. On this particular thing, I contracted a company to do the work that I thought would know the permits that have to be taken out. In this particular field, I'm not aware of the exact permits that needed to be done, need to be taken out in order to do the work.
What was the name of the company that he contracted with?
¿Cuál fue el nombre de la compañía que usted pagó o contrató para hacer el trabajo?
Yo no la recuerdo ahora mismo, no la tengo a mano, pero se la podría conseguir si necesitan ese nombre.
I don't remember right now, but I can get it for you and provide that information to you.
Mr. Jarzna, could you make sure Mr. Neff gets the name of that company?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll defer back to the lady who's has the podium. I apologize for interrupting.
Okay. I think she left the podium. I don't know if she was done or not.
I'm sorry.
She did, but I have a question.
Okay. I think we have another gentleman with a question. So you want to give us your name and your address, sir?
My name is Leslie McGann. I live at 724 North 3rd Street.
He has to swear in.
Oh, yes, okay.
Well, he's asking a question, right?
Yeah, right.
Spell your name, please.
McGann, McGA. First name is Leslie, Lesleigh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your question, sir.
It's for the surveyor.
Yeah.
Feet does the parking area cover? Excuse me, how many feet does the current open space cover from the back of the building to the next lot? And how many parking spaces currently exist in that length down Thorn?
Okay, you need to speak into the microphone and speak up because it's very hard to
Okay.
hear you.
Sorry. From, I want to know how many feet back of 730 and 743 Thorn Street cover on Thorn Street at this time?
Linear feet on Thorn.
Yes, linear feet running down the length of Thorn.
Oh. I can tell you that in a minute here. The distance from. Currently, there's 85 feet of frontage on Thorn Street.
Okay. How many cars normally fit on 85 feet of frontage?
Generally, a good parking layout will have 18-foot parking spaces, a 22-foot lane, and an 18-foot parking space, which adds up to that adds up to 58 feet. So, and then till I put the handicap parking in there, that took a portion of the balance of the Thorn Street property or the frontage. But then there is a open space area beside the parking spaces that is allowed to that would be facing the Douglas Street portion that can be landscaped.
No,
And,
I think what he's asking is, how many cars could you fit in 85 feet? Is that right, sir?
Yes. If the average car is 16 feet and you're saying the average parking space is 18 feet, you
Right.
divide 85 by 18, that's 4.7 parking spaces.
Right, so
Since
you'd be
this is a
losing
small
4
half
point.
street, the normal residents are used to parking very close and making sure they get the maximum amount. So we're talking 4 or possibly 5 cars in that location. You're going to have an entrance and an exit, and you tell me a handicap location into this parking lot. Is that correct?
no, there will not be an entrance and an exit. There'll be a combined entrance and exit, just one entrance.
I see.
So it's not a loop coming in there, but the handicap space to make it work, unless we come up with something different, would require to come in off of Thorn Street. So that takes a parking space. So my understanding being at the site, there was a drive ramp onto that property. With the way the parking lot is laid out, it'll be slightly moved, but you would have almost two parking spaces along that frontage that would remain.
So
Okay.
you're
So
losing a net of 2.7 to 3 parking spaces on Thorn Street.
okay. So if you drive down Thorn Street, which is a half street, you have to be fairly careful when you drive because there's cars parked on either side of the street. If you are trying to parallel park, you have to make sure that one end of your car doesn't hit people parked on your left and the other side of your car doesn't hit people parked on your right. When you say that we're losing 2 parking spaces, does this include the necessary turning radius for a car to pull in or out of that parking lot without hitting the cars on the other side of the street or parked in the remaining 2 spaces?
That's the way I have it laid out with the turning radius is, what I do is I mark off 8 feet on both sides of the street and leave let's see, Thorn Street's 24 feet wide. So if you take 8 feet off of each side, that gives you an 8-foot lane, and I have it so the cars will come out and be able to turn out and negotiate the street. I drive these streets in an F-250, and you're right, it's a little challenging at times, but it can be done.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Last call.
I may.
Okay, sir.
I want to understand, is these are only questions to the surveyor or any questions at
No,
all?
you have questions to any of the applicants.
Yeah.
And your name and address, please, first.
Hi, my name is Michael Lauter, Lauter. I live at 836 Center Avenue.
Okay.
My question is, what are the hours of operation of this facility, of the restaurant going to be?
Let you go to the interpreter to the.
Yeah.
Yes. Señor Tolentino, la pregunta es, ¿cuáles son las horas de operación del local? ¿Cuándo va a estar abierto? Los días y las horas.
Va a tener el mismo horario que tenía anteriormente. Va a seguir el que está aprobado por Sony y por la ciudad. Los lunes, martes, miércoles, de 4 de la tarde hasta cerrar a las 2 de la noche. Entonces, jueves, de 12 a 2 de la mañana. De jueves a domingo, de 12 a 2 de la mañana. Lo que era, lo mismo que estaba, no va a haber cambio, sino el mismo horario que estaba.
So it's going to follow the same time schedule that was before, and that's all been approved by zoning. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 2 in the morning, closing time. Then we're doing Thursday through Sunday, will be 12 noon to 2 in the morning.
Okay. My next question is, which I think I know the answer to this, but it was the parking lot that you're proposing. Will that only be for patrons of this operation?
So, and I guess that's for Mr. Tolentino. So, ese propuesto lugar de estacionamiento, ¿será solo para los clientes del local?
No, las iglesias que están alrededor me pidieron rentarme el parqueo y yo le dije que no, que ese sí es para el servicio de la iglesia. El parqueo se puede utilizar gratuitamente. Lo único que le exigí es que me lo dejen limpio.
So I did have the church came up and they wanted to use the parking lot during the times of their church service, and they said they'd be willing to rent the parking spaces. I said if it's being used for church services and purposes, they can use the parking lot free as long as they leave the lot clean afterwards.
Is it available? Would it be available for residents of that neighborhood to use?
¿Y qué hay de las personas que viven en los vecindarios? ¿Es posible que ellos puedan utilizar el estacionamiento?
Bueno, como está, dependiendo de la necesidad que tenga, porque eso es para el vecindario. Dependiendo si hay una necesidad que necesita parquear un vehículo en mi parqueo, claro que sí, se lo podíamos proveer.
Well, we can analyze it based on a given need, and if someone has a given need to use a spot and they come up to me and talk about it, I should be able to make them available a possible spot to park in my lot.
So if the residents, let's say a resident would park on that parking lot without your permission, what would be your remedy for that?
So, ¿qué hace si una persona que vive en el vecindario va sin su permiso y estaciona su vehículo en su estacionamiento? ¿Qué haría en tal situación?
Se lo va, en ese caso, excepto que haya nieve, como la calle es un poco incómoda y se necesita limpiar, sí lo podrían hacer, porque yo lo voy a consentir en ese caso. Pero por eso estoy creando esos parqueos para que mi cliente no ocasione molestia a ninguno de ellos, de los que viven alrededor. Tendría que pedirme permiso, porque si no piden permiso, pues entonces yo voy a mandar a remolcarlo. Si no
¿Mandar a
tienen-
qué? ¿Mandar a
que lo-
hacer qué?
que los remolquen si no tienen
Okay,
una
yeah.
autorización.
Right. Well, really, they need to ask my permission to use the parking lot. But if there's a need and we can come to an agreement, then maybe we can use it. If they're using it without my permission, then it could might have to call a tow truck in that instance. But there should be ways to use the parking lot, especially in times when there's no snow. If in snow, then obviously can't have cars on the lot. You got to clean the lot well.
And the other question I had, you mentioned about having security there. And I'm wondering at closing time at 2:00 in the morning, what happens to, or what kind of security would you be providing for patrons who might wish to purchase 6-packs to go and then decide to stay on that parking lot, turning up their music and hanging out there until 3 or 4 in the morning, which
Okay,
obviously.
interpret that portion first. Estoy curioso en cuanto a la seguridad, especialmente a la hora de cierre. Y si hay un cliente como a las 2 de la mañana y justo antes de salir se compra una cajita de cerveza de 6 cervezas y va para el estacionamiento y sigue tomando hasta las 3 y 4, tocando música. ¿Qué tipo de seguridad habrá para evitar eso?
Bueno, ustedes pueden chequear que el negocio que tenemos de nosotros es uno de los más seguros que hay aquí, donde la policía no se preocupa. Tengo una compañía de seguro. Antes de cerrar, todo tiene que estar removido porque nosotros dejamos todo limpio, de manera que no vaya a pasar.
So you can check around our other businesses. One of the best in the neighborhood. The police have a good rapport with us. At the time of closing, we will make sure everybody clears the parking lot because we want the parking lot only clear to people, but if any litter or whatever that might be there is also cleaned.
So you are stating that you would clear the parking lot immediately after closing.
Usted está diciendo que va a vaciar el parqueo de toda la gente que están ahí poco después de la hora de cierre.
Sí, porque yo me aseguro de que la compañía de seguridad mío vaya atrás y esté segura de que todo está seguro, limpio y todo limpio para el otro día, si Dios quiere.
Right. Yes, that's true. And I do have a security company that works for me, and part of their job is to make sure the parking lot's cleared, it's clean, and it's all set for the next day.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, one more person with a question. Name, address, please.
This is Laurie Jakovic, 740 Thorn Street, with one final question. I'd like to know how he's going to be able to keep the peace in our neighborhood with noise complaints, which is why the prior business had so many issues. 2:00 in the morning in a residential neighborhood with an outdoor hookah bar. How are you going to quiet down the noise from the music and the people and the traffic?
Has nothing to do.
Ok, entonces la pregunta de la señora es, ¿cómo va a mantener la paz en el vecindario? Una de las quejas más grandes de la otra compañía es el ruido. Y a las 2 de la mañana, ¿cómo usted va a controlar el ruido? Ella tenía un hookah bar afuera que había muchas quejas de ruido.
Bueno, si ustedes pueden chequear, nosotros hemos gastado más de $1,5 millones, donde se puso insulación a prueba de sonido, de manera que no me le ocasione daño al vecindario o ningún tipo de molestia. No
Un
queremos.
momentico con esa parte. Well, you can check. We have put $1.5 million worth of soundproof insulation, and the purpose of this insulation is to avoid having noise that would bother our neighbors.
And just for the record, the use of the property that's a non-conforming use that's been there for as long as I've been around isn't at issue. We're talking about the parking tonight.
Okay, y el señor dijo, señor Tolentino, el asunto no es el uso de el lugar, porque ya se ha tenido una vara o ese tipo de cosas por años, aunque es un no conformista a las normas, pero el asunto solo tiene que ver con el parqueo.
Now, the only way it may relate is in relationship to the neighborhood outpouring here, that if he gets the approval of the parking lot, he will make improvements to the existing bar restaurant, so it becomes less of an issue of noise, litter, congregation of people after hours. That's why I allowed those questions.
Él permitió esa pregunta para que usted sepa, quizás será necesario examinar esas cosas de la bulla, de tirar basura, especialmente a las horas de cierre, quizás, pero sí, eso no es el asunto que se trata ese caso aquí.
Sí, sí, gracias, porque nosotros hemos tomado todo en cuenta de manera de que no podamos ser molestias, sino una mejoría para el negocio de nosotros. Ese negocio está hecho con esos propósitos de levantar nuestro vecindario, mejorarlo en todos los sentidos, no causar molestia.
So really, we thank you for those comments, and we're trying to take everything into account here. We don't want to cause any bother or disturbance in the neighborhood. Our goal and our plan is to lift up the neighborhood, improve the neighborhood, and we're trying to take all those things into account.
My last question, I swear, is if that is true, his statement is true, then what are we doing about the fact that he already removed 3 parking spots? We have mud running off into Thorn Street, and we have now potholes all up and down exactly where he had the earth shakers come and try to level the lot.
All right, ma'am.
So
Yeah, we understand your concerns. We're here about his requested zoning relief. We understand that there's been issues, that he started without permits. We get that. The board gets that. They'll take that into consideration. But let's
how do
focus
we
in on
fix
the.
the damage that he's caused already is my question.
No, that's
I
not a
understand
question. That's a
but
statement.
He's destroyed the street.
Ma'am, I'm gonna ask, when you want to testify, you can testify. If you want to say that he's destroyed Thorn Street, he's screwed up the curbs and all that stuff, we can get to that. The board understands it. They've heard it. I've been a little bit liberal, but these aren't questions. These are statements. So
I have a question.
all right, hold on. Do we have any questions for Ms. Jankovich about the parking lot?
Yes, I do.
Well, you're not her.
I do. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are there any other questions? This is the last go through. Any other questions?
Yes.
Who is this?
My name is Christian DeMarta, and I'm at 816 North 3rd Street.
All right. Your
Spell your
question.
name.
DEMARTA.
Thank you.
My question is to the Planning Commission. I'm just
We're
curious.
not here to answer questions. We're here to hear
Okay, well
facts.
then I'm asking a question as to how they put a parking lot behind a historic home and took away part of that yard from a historic home.
Well,
I can't even paint my house a certain color, and somebody took their whole yard and is trying to change it into a parking lot.
That's what the hearing's about. And that's for the
That's what
zoning.
I'm asking you. What, if there's any question and doubt of this, sir, I'm asking you.
You're making a statement
if
now.
there is
I
a
thought I was
decision.
pretty clear, sir. I'm gonna say it one last time. If you want to make a statement, that's later on in the hearing.
Not a statement. I'm
Right.
asking why did he do that? I'm
You can
asking
ask him,
why
and he
he
already
ordered
answered,
that.
he already answered that question when he said he hired a company, he thought they would get the permits. That's in the testimony. Okay, so if you have another question, let's ask it and move on. Do you have
No,
another
this-
question? All right.
If I may add one more thing, Mr. Price, just to clarify an answer to previously asked question. Right now, I understand that this establishment has been approved to operate until 2 a.m. But because of issues with the previous business, the PLCB, Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, as we speak, is not allowing this establishment to be open past 1 a.m. And there's a specific condition that all the patrons must leave within 30 minutes.
The last call's at 1 a.m.
Correct. So it's let me see, because this was imposed on the previous business back in, let me see, this is from, just looking at the specific document, 2014, June 18, 2014, and this attaches to the license. So even though the business, I'm sure now, even though the business changed, these conditions is something that the current holder of the license must follow.
All right. All right. So,
Mr. Price? Mr. Price?
Who's this?
Fritz. It's Fritz Rothermel.
Yes, sir.
One last question. Have the viewers been advised which sections of the ordinance have been asked for relief?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So are there any other questions of the applicant's witnesses? I see none. So now, once again, if we have multiple people that are going to testify against this application, because I don't think there's anybody out there in the audience that's going to testify for it. If there's anybody that's going to testify against it, if, for instance, Mr. Rothmel is the first person to testify, and he says everything that you were going to say, all you had to do is be sworn in, say your name and your address, and say, if I were to testify, I would have testified as to the things that Mr. Rothermel said. If you have additional things, then you can add them. Are there any questions about that instruction? Okay, hearing none. Since Mr. Rothermel, I think, was the first person to ask questions, Mr. Rothermel, do you want to give any testimony for or against this application?
Yes, I would like to do that.
All right, let's swear Mr. Rothermel in then, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Full name and address for the record.
Fritz Rothermel, Rothermel. I live at 329 Douglas Street, Reading, Pennsylvania. I've been an urban planner for more than 30 years. I worked in the Reading Bureau of Planning for 28 of those years, including assistant director. I assisted in writing several iterations of the zoning ordinance, and I administered the same ordinance when called for. It's my professional opinion that the provisions of the zoning ordinance do not inflict unnecessary hardship upon the applicant, and variances are not necessary to enable the reasonable use of the subject properties. 220 Douglas Street has been a small corner bar in several past iterations, including Tommy's and most recently Sofrito's. And it's mostly consistent in character with the surrounding residential neighborhood. Adding an 18-space off-street parking area to the property significantly expands an existing non-conforming use and will increase late night noise, activity, and traffic for the 18 houses that are on the 700 block of Thorn Street. Section 600-103 of the zoning ordinance lists its purposes including the following: to protect the established character and the social and economic well-being of both private and public property. Secondly, to promote in the public interest the utilization of land for the purposes for which it is most appropriate. Thirdly, to prevent overcrowding of land and buildings. Also, to preserve and enhance the visual character and natural beauty of the city. Next, to minimize the impact incompatible uses have on individual neighborhood character. And lastly, to lessen and where possible, to prevent traffic congestion on public streets and highways. It should be noted that as a half street, Thorn is narrow, one lane south with on-street parking on both sides. As the only exit for the proposed 18-space lot, Thorn Street will experience increased traffic flow and reduced safety. If the zoning hearing board determines that the proposed off-street parking lot be approved for 220 Douglas, I would strongly recommend that all zoning ordinance provisions for buffer strips, section 600-1401, and landscape screening, section 600-1401C and 1402, be absolutely required to protect and insulate adjacent residential development as much as possible. Thank you for your time. The end.
Mr. Jarzny, do you have any questions for Mr. Rothamel?
I do not, thank you.
You do not, okay. Do any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Rothamel?
No. No.
Do any members in the audience have any questions for Mr. Rothamel? You're getting off pretty easy, Fritz.
It's the first time.
Yeah, I know. So, Merry Christmas to you. Are there other members in the audience that have any, want to give testimony against this application?
Yes,
Your name and address, and then you need to be sworn in, please.
my name is Leslie McGann. I live at 724 North 3rd Street.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything that Mr. Rothmarel said, and I agree with it. I do think that a little clarification in everyday language would be appropriate, but I will be as brief as possible. The previous businesses at this location, Sofritos and Tommy's, were able to run their business with on-street parking and local foot traffic. They did not need a parking lot. I don't see why it should be necessary for this business to have the parking lot. We are concerned in the neighborhood about the drainage possible problems, increased traffic, reduced parking, trash, noise, and light pollution. We are also concerned about the division of a historic property, 730 North 3rd Street, being divided front to back, as well as the reduction of green space. That property had beautiful flowering trees all over it that were viewable both by people who lived on 3rd Street from their back windows and people who lived on Thorn Street, and they're all gone. A parking lot, even with a few shrubs, will not be the same. Finally, the owner of the business stated that they were thanked by one of the neighbors for cleaning up the yards. I do not question that there were needles or trash from people in the past in those in the parking area or the empty lot of 743. However, I and another member of this group this evening went around to the homes on Douglas Street, Thorn Street, and North 3rd, and got 36 signatures of local neighbors who do not want this parking lot. So unfortunately, he's mistaken about whether or not the neighbors are happy about this, because he says he has one person who said Thank you. I have 36 who say no, thank you. And I'd be happy to provide this list to the council. Thank you.
So what we'll do with the list, the zoning administrator can take it. The zoning board will give it whatever weight it determines. I'm sure you understand what that means, Mr. Jarshna. And because you can't cross-examine the list, obviously. Do you have any questions for that witness, Mr. Jarshna?
I do not. Thank you.
Any members of the board have any questions?
No.
Okay. Any members in the audience have any questions for that witness? Okay, seeing none. Does anybody else want to give testimony that would be different than the prior two witnesses with respect to this application?
I do.
And your name and address, sir?
My name is Louis Parrish. I live at 217 Oley Street.
Okay, and we need to swear you in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thorn Street is a one-way street, 700 block. These cars coming out of there, all they're gonna do is side swipe every car that in there. I got side swiped a couple times and I live in a 200 block. 16 parking spaces is nothing with all the people that's gonna come there to see sports. It's not gonna work. All we're gonna have is traffic, just like his other bar club that gets so packed. Where them other cars, they're gonna be blocking every little alleyways and everything coming out of there. It's not gonna work. It's a nuisance. The little 16 parking spaces that they have, it's not gonna be enough for all the people that are gonna be coming to that bar.
All right.
That's all I have to say. You know, I've been living here for 20 something years. These bars are out of this world. These parking spaces, all you hear them is yelling in the parking lot. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I work a weekend shift, and that's all you hear.
All right, well, thank you, sir. Mr.
Thank you.
Jarshna, do you have any questions for that witness?
Just briefly, Mr. Paris, you're talking about my client's other establishment. How many times have you been there, and for how long to observe the traffic patterns and other things?
You know, he said that there was never no issues down there. The cops were always down there, across right across the parking lot. The cops were always sitting there just waiting because there was always problems down there, fighting and stuff like that. So for him to say that his establishment is so good, that is not true.
And you have spoken with those police officers?
I never spoken to them police officers. You go by there and that's all you see. It's not an everyday thing, but there's always some issue down there. It's not like it's a peaceful, quiet, no problems down there. There always is.
And you said your car got sideswept already a few times?
My car got sideswiped twice when Sofrito was there because everybody just coming down drunk and just pulling up around the corner of Oley Street and just sideswipe and just keep on going.
Okay, so those
With
are
16 parking spaces, there's not going to be 16 people in that establishment. So there's going to be a lot of cars coming there, parking all over the place. I got my own parking. I got 2 cars. I got my own parking right now inside this building in the corner of 721 Oley Street. Once that bar Sofrito was there, the whole strip was full. You couldn't even get out the garage to go to work because everybody's parking. So 16 little spaces that they're going to make, it's not going to do no justice for us. We bad enough that we ain't got no parking spaces now in this neighborhood or in Thorn Street, because we got people from Thorn Street parking in Oley Street, you know, and then once that open up for that little 16 spaces, it's not going to be enough for everybody that's going to go there to a sports bar.
okay.
That's open until 1 something in the morning. That's going to be crazy.
All right, we still have more hearings to go, so we understand the parking issue. Any other questions, Mr. Jarshna?
No, thank you.
Are there anybody else? Is there anybody else that wants to testify? Okay, I don't see.
I think there's a lady at the podium.
All right.
Please
Ma'am?
raise your right hand.
Yeah.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address?
My name is Kenya Frias and I live in 728 North 3rd.
Spell your name.
728 what?
728 North Third, right next to the property in question.
Spell your name.
Kenia is Kenia. Frias, Frias.
Thank you.
Okay, your statement?
Okay, since I moved to Reading.
You
know
have
I
to
wanted
speak
to-
up and speak into the
Okay,
microphone, ma'am.
Since I moved to Reading, I knew I wanted to live in Central Park because it's a quiet area, it's a residential area, clean, and I knew that was the place that I wanted to live in. I bought my house, and it's been nothing but peace. Now I'm right next to 730. My backyard also go from Third to Thorn Street. And I'm really worried and how this is gonna take away everything that I decide to move to Central Park for. I'm really concerned about this place closing at 2 in the morning when I'm sleeping. All the noise that's gonna produce right in my backyard. And also, 730 is part of the historical district. For us to paint, to change anything, we have to request a permission. And a lot of things cannot be changed. So I'm asking myself, how is this going to be allowed being part of the historical district? And I'm just, at some point I said to myself, well, I'm just gonna sell my house and move because I'm not gonna live with that. All the noise at 2 in the morning, people yelling, turning off the music right next to my bathroom. And then I say, no, I don't have to do that because I have my rights. And I'm not the one to causing the problem. So I'm just asking here to take in consideration that Central Park is one of the best area that Reading has. And that the people that we live there, we take pride in how clean our neighborhood is and how quiet and peaceful everybody lives there. So I'm just please asking, whenever you're gonna make your decision, to think about us. And talking personally, and I know this might be too personal, but I'm somebody that I'm dealing with health issues. And this situation got me really nervous. I bought my house and I've been living there and it's been nothing but peace. And responding the question that Mr. Philip asked and how we got that far, I'm able to respond. And the way they got that far is because when they were asked why they were cutting the tree, when Sonny asked the owner what they were cutting the trees, they said it's because the trees were in bad condition, which is not true. So they knew since the beginning that they bought the property because they wanted to build a parking lot. Why? When Sonny called them, they just didn't say, oh, we are gonna build a parking lot. They said they were cutting the trees because they were in bad condition. So, and in that sense, how can we trust him to do the right thing when he has said one thing and do another? And that's my concern, that the nature of the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood is gonna change overall by this parking lot. This is a residential area where a commercial parking lot has not place to be. So please, whenever you're gonna make the decision, think about all of us, the people that were there when they got there. And like my Leslie said, we went through the neighborhood asking people what they thought about it. And we couldn't find anybody that agreed with this. So you have a whole neighborhood against this situation.
Thank you, ma'am. We
Thank you.
So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jarzna, do you have any questions for this witness?
No questions. Thank you.
Any members of the board have any questions?
No.
Any members
No.
in the audience have any questions? Seeing none? All right. So that will close the evidentiary portion of this hearing. Mr. Jarzna, you don't have any closing comments or anything, do you?
No, unless,
We still have one more person that wanted to provide comment.
All right. We do have other hearings, so if it's gonna be just about the same things
It'll
that
be
everybody
quick.
else has testified to, we don't need to have that.
It'll be quick.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Full name and spell it and your address.
Richard Politica, last name Polityka, 730 North Front Street, Reading. I just want to say that the previous testimonies I agree with wholeheartedly, but the one thing I would just add to the last testimony is with the house being in the Center Park Historic District, 730 North Third, being in the historic district, anything that's done to the property has to go before the Historic Architectural Review Board, which I'm a member of. So that has to get cleared by them before anything gets done. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the hard board. So yep. We get that. All right. So is there anybody else at city council chambers that wants to testify, or are we through the evidentiary portion? Because I can't really
We
tell.
have one more person.
What?
More. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear this testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Full
My name
name.
is Michael Louder, Lauter, 836 Center Avenue. And I believe you had said that we are allowed to state that we agree wholeheartedly with whatever was said before us. I'd like to do that. I would also like to follow up on Mr. Polityka's comment about the Center Park Historic District, as I am the executive director of that. When historic districts are formed, there are very specific boundaries, north, south, east, west boundaries that are established. And that's part of the historic district ordinance. And in this particular case, it talks about, just like your property, you know, there's your deed to your property, you have so many feet, right, north, south, so forth. And the ordinance states that it goes westerly along the center line of Oley Street to its intersection with the extended western line of 710 North Third Street. Thence northwardly by various courses and distances along the western property lines and their connections of 710, 714, 724, 726, 728, 730, 734, 736, 738. 740, 742, and so on. So, gentlemen, I believe that this is not just a simple annexation. I believe that in order to do what is being proposed by taking part of 730 and annexing it would require a change to the historic district ordinance of the city of Reading, which would require, I believe, city council input as well. It also might have to be run by the state of Pennsylvania, as historic districts are certified by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. So I just wanted to add that testimony. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jarzna, any questions for this witness?
No questions. Thank you.
Any members of the board have any questions?
No.
Any members of the audience have any questions for the witness? All right, hearing none. Is there anybody else that wants to testify? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the evidentiary portion of this.
Yes.
Did somebody just go to the podium again?
Yeah, since you asked if there's anyone else who want to make testimony. My name is Leslie McGann. I live at 724 North 3rd Street.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I will. Yes, I do. Yes. The gentleman who lives on Oley Street commented that he felt there were problems, police problems at the other location. And the attorney for the owners of Platinum questioned how much time he had spent investigating or speaking with the police officers about any problems with that bar at that location. I took the liberty of going to the police desk the other day and getting a copy of the report of the police calls over the last years since 2017. They include disorderly conduct, assault, lost property, noise, assault, harassment, EMS, noise, theft, wanted person, noise, MVANO. I don't know what that means. It goes on and on. Now, however, in the last 8 months, you notice that there are very few calls for those reasons. But you see, there are dozens of highlighted calls. The highlighted calls are what's called policeman's check. They go with bar check. They go in on their own to make sure that things are being taken care of. So that means nearly every night, Reading police officers are going into the bar to establish their presence. And that apparently is the reason why the harassments, noise, wanted people, assaults, and other sorts of disturbances have reduced at the 1925 Center Avenue location.
Mr. Jarzna, do you have any questions of this witness?
Yes, I have questions.
No. One question, sir. Do you know when my client purchased that establishment and since when he's been running it?
Do I know him personally?
No.
Is that what you have?
Do you know when my client purchased this establishment you just mentioned had issued since 2017?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
When did he purchase?
I'm not here to answer questions.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
So, all right. We're almost into these hearings 3 hours now. So we're done with evidence in these cases. We've hashed it out. We understand the issues. A lot of it is irrelevant to this parking lot, but we've allowed people to speak. The evidentiary portion of this hearing is over. Mr. Jarzna, I presume you don't really have any closing statements to make?
Thank you.
Okay. With that, a decision will be rendered at the January meeting. You do not need to be present. If you want a copy of the decision, if you're not the applicant, ask the zoning hearing officer, and he will make sure a copy is sent to you by email. Okay, with that, thank you very much. We'll move to our last hearing.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
The last hearing this evening is Appeal 2022-52. It's 931 Green Street. Julio Garcia is requesting an alteration of a previous zoning board decision of Appeal 2009-18 to allow increased hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. The subject property is located in an R3 zoning district and the owner of record is Ramindo Traveras. And as it said in there, this case had been before us before, and the original hours were weekdays 9 to 8, and on Saturdays 8 to 2. And they're requesting 7 to 10 during the week, or let's see, yeah, 7 to 10, I would assume probably 6 days a week. Would we swear in our zoning officer?
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Has notice of this appeal been given?
Yes, it has.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading.
Okay, thank you. Is
And
the
just-
applicant present and is he represented by counsel?
I believe this one might need an interpreter also.
Okay, we'll swear you in and then go ahead.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to interpret truthfully and accurately to the best of your ability?
I do. Entonces, la pregunta era, ¿es el solicitante Julio García presente?
Is he here?
¿Es Julio García está presente?
There's some,
I don't see that gentleman
No.
on the thing.
now there's some guests and there's 2 phones there, but those 2 phones are muted. So I don't know if they can hear us or not hear us.
Ask him if he's on phone, Tom, and then if he is, tell him to unmute.
Que Julio está conectado por teléfono. Si está conectado por teléfono, tiene que activar y quitar el silencio. Está silencio.
Hi, well, my name is Yaneri Lopez, and I am the manager at the business. He's supposed to be on here. He was texting me the whole time that he was online. I'm not sure what happened.
All
If
right,
he-
well, we'll have you testify, miss.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, so let's swear her in.
let's swear her in, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
And what's your full name, ma'am?
Yaneri Lopez, first name Yanery, last name Lopez.
And do you work at or manage the taqueria located at 931 Green Street?
Yes, I do.
And how long have you managed that taqueria?
Okay, for a period I've been there now for about 4 months.
Okay. And Mr. Garcia has owned that property or owned that taqueria for how long?
He's been there for, I believe, a little over a year, maybe a year and 4 months or so.
And he wants to expand the hours of operation to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 6 or 7 days per week.
7 days per week.
And have you had, since the property was posted, have any of your neighbors objected to this use?
No, we actually, during these last couple of days that the sign was posted by the city on the door, customers were asking, like, what was that for? If we were getting like a liquor license, people asking questions. And we did inform the customers about the extended hours that we were requesting. And everybody was like, oh, that's nice, that's nice. So we'll have more time to come for the shopping. Nothing but good comments. I never heard a negative comment, even though I would have got it directly anyway, but.
Right. And Moss Street near your shop is mainly residential, but where your shop is located, that block, it's a small block, is generally commercial. Is that correct?
That's correct. Across the street from the business, it's like the back area, like where they put the trash can of, Green Street Middle School.
Right. 10th and Green? Is it 10th and Green?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and since the time you've been there and to your knowledge, there haven't been any complaints about the operation of this taqueria, has there?
No, and to be honest to you, before this, I was out for about a year, but before that, I used to work there before also. I started there in 2018 and I left 2021. And I just came back again now when we never had any issues with anybody.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, we'll go with the board. Mr. Jones, any questions?
No, I have none.
Mr. Fox?
I have none.
Okay, Mr. Gattone?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Bars, any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, I just have one. Other than changing your hours of operation, you're really not doing anything else, are you?
No, not for now. And I am aware if we are going to make any other changes, that we have to go through zoning and, we have to go through the city for any other changes. I am aware of that.
Well, thank you very much. You win the prize. Because
Thank you
apparently
so
people
much.
think you just do
I'm
whatever
glad
you
the
want.
waiting had a good ending.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. We appreciate
Well,
that.
thank you. I appreciate you too. You have a great night.
Is there
Okay, now
anybody-
you're not done yet. Mr.
No
Price,
problem. I'll
any-
hang in.
Any questions?
No, is there any in the audience to question?
Yeah, I need to go to zoning, see if they have questions first. Anybody?
I don't have any questions either.
All right, now, anybody in the audience have any questions of this applicant? Appears there's none. Anybody want to testify for granting the application? Seeing none. Anybody want to testify against granting the application? Seeing none. So, do you have anything else you would like to add, Ms. Lopez?
No, I just want to say thank you very much.
Okay, so that concludes this hearing, and we'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. It will be mailed to you. And before we close, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and however you celebrate this time of the year. Somebody left me a good thought. They said, make peace with the past, make the best you can of what's going on now, and work towards a better future. So we'll see all of you in 2023, which is hard to believe. Okay.
Take care.
Good night.
Very good.
Good
I
night.
guess, guys, we have our get together on the 18th of January, I think. So we can talk about workshops. Steve, if you want to deal with that, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll have Glenda shoot out an email to everybody and try to do a morning at my office to get the workshop, and then
Yeah, we'll do a
Okay.
quickie.
All right.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Best to all of you. Thank you.
Be safe.
Good night.